My name is Mackenzie Turner, I'm 28, and I always thought I'd stand beside my little sister Emma on her wedding day. When she got engaged to Bradley last spring, I was genuinely thrilled for her. I never imagined my own sister would decide I wasn't pretty enough to stand beside her. "We're going for a very specific aesthetic," she said, eyes avoiding mine. What happened next changed not just my appearance, but my entire life. Before I share how I transformed myself inside and out, let me know where you're watching from and subscribe to join thousands who found their own power through rejection. Growing up, the roles in our family were clearly defined from early on. Emma was the pretty sister, with her perfect blonde curls and bright blue eyes that matched our mother's. I was the smart sister, the one with the good grades, sensible outlook, and practical plans for the future. This division wasn't something we created ourselves. It was reinforced constantly by our mother Diane. "Emma gets her looks from my side," Mom would proudly tell relatives at family gatherings. And "Mackenzie gets her brains from their father." It was always said with a smile, but the subtext was clear. In our family, beauty ranked higher than brains. Family photos told the story better than words could. Emma front and center beside Mom, both with identical smiles. Me? I was positioned strategically in the back or off to the side. "The lighting hits better this way," Mom would explain, rearranging us. I learned early that my place was not in the spotlight. While Emma spent hours practicing makeup techniques from YouTube tutorials, I buried myself in books and later, computer code. My sister perfected her selfie angles. I perfected my college applications. She pursued Instagram followers. I pursued scholarships. We weren't in competition. We were simply walking entirely different paths that rarely crossed. By the time Emma announced her engagement at 26, I had built a life I was proud of. I worked as a software engineer at a promising tech startup, making more than enough to afford my small but comfortable apartment in the city. My space reflected my priorities. Bookshelves lined with technical manuals and novels, a powerful gaming setup in one corner, and framed diplomas on the wall. What my apartment didn't have was the carefully curated aesthetic that dominated Emma's perfectly staged home. My appearance matched my practical outlook. I wore what was comfortable: jeans, hoodies, and sneakers most days. Makeup was something I applied for special occasions, not daily life. I was about 20 pounds heavier than society's ideal, but I was generally healthy and too busy building software to worry much about it. My hair was usually pulled back in a simple ponytail, clean and neat, but nothing special. Emma, meanwhile, had transformed herself into a minor Instagram celebrity with nearly 100,000 followers. Her feed was a carefully curated collection of perfect outfits, flawless makeup, and expertly posed photos. She had parlayed her online following into partnerships with boutique clothing brands and local businesses, turning her appearance into a legitimate career. Every aspect of her online presence was calculated for maximum aesthetic appeal. It hadn't escaped my notice that I rarely appeared on her feed. When family gatherings were photographed for her Instagram, I would mysteriously be assigned to take the picture, or would find myself cropped out of the final post. I told myself it didn't matter. I wasn't living my life for social media approval. But sometimes, in quiet moments, the systematic erasure stung. When Emma announced her engagement to Bradley, a marketing executive from a wealthy family, she did it with a professionally photographed beach proposal that went semi-viral in her online community. The subsequent engagement party was held at an exclusive rooftop venue with a strict dress code. I showed up in the nicest dress I owned, a simple black cocktail dress I'd worn to multiple work functions, only to find everyone else in flowing pastel gowns that complemented the party's color scheme. "You could have texted me about the dress code," I whispered to Emma when I finally got a moment with her. "Sorry, I thought I included it in the event," she replied, distracted by another well-wisher. "Anyway, the important photos are just the wedding party, so it's fine." Throughout the night, Emma kept talking about her perfect wedding aesthetic and how everything would be absolutely flawless. I nodded along, assuming that despite our differences, I would still be standing beside my only sister on her big day. After all, we were family. Some things transcended appearances. I was wrong. The dinner where everything changed was held at Le Blanc, the kind of restaurant where the menu has no prices and the waitstaff judge you by your shoe brand. Emma had selected it, of course. She and Bradley sat across from me, with our mother Diane beside Emma and Bradley's parents flanking him. I felt underdressed in my work clothes, having come straight from the office. Everyone else looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine spread. "The venue is absolutely stunning," Emma was saying, scrolling through photos on her phone. "We've booked the grand ballroom at the Westlake Hotel for both ceremony and reception. The floral arrangements will be white roses and baby's breath with eucalyptus accents. Very clean, very elegant." "It sounds beautiful, darling," Mom said, squeezing Emma's hand. "Just perfect. The color scheme is blush pink, champagne, and ivory," Emma continued, pulling up her Pinterest board to show everyone. "The bridesmaids will be in blush pink silk slip dresses. Very simple, very chic." Speaking of bridesmaids, Bradley's mother interjected, "Have you finalized the wedding party?" Something shifted in the atmosphere. Emma glanced at me briefly, then away. Mom suddenly became very interested in her water glass. Bradley cleared his throat and reached for his wine. "Actually," Emma said, her voice artificially bright, "we have. Tiffany will be my maid of honor, of course. Then there's Sophia, Madison, Layla, and Ashley. All from my pure aesthetic group." I waited for my name. It didn't come. "What about Mackenzie?" Bradley's father asked, looking at me kindly. "Won't your sister be in the wedding party?" The silence that followed lasted only seconds, but felt eternal. "We're going for a very specific aesthetic with the wedding party," Emma finally said, still not meeting my eyes. "The bridesmaids will be heavily featured in the professional photos and the wedding video, which we're hoping to get featured on some major wedding blogs." "And?" I prompted, my stomach already knotting with dread. Emma finally looked at me, her expression a mixture of pity and determination. "And you don't quite fit the look we're going for, Mac."
"I'm sorry."
The restaurant seemed to grow unnaturally quiet. I could hear the clink of silverware from tables away, the murmur of conversation from strangers enjoying their evening, unaware that my world was cracking apart. "We need the family photos to look flawless," Mom whispered, reaching across to pat my hand. "You understand, don't you, sweetheart? Emma's been planning this her whole life." I started, then had to stop and swallow hard. I thought being sisters meant more than how I look in photos. "It's not personal," Emma insisted. "It's just aesthetics. You're still family. We were thinking you could be the guest book attendant. That way you're still involved." "Guest book attendant," I repeated. The words tasted bitter. "So, I can stand in the corner in a non-matching dress and ask people to sign their names?" "Mackenzie," Mom said, her tone warning. "It's an important role," Emma added quickly. "And you'll still be in some family photos. Just not the wedding party ones." Bradley remained silent, looking uncomfortable but not coming to my defense. His parents exchanged glances that spoke volumes about what they thought of this situation. "I see," I managed to say, fighting back tears. "And when were you planning to tell me this?" "I was going to call you this weekend," Emma said. "I wanted to do it in person, but I was trying to find the right time." "Right," I said, reaching for my purse. "Well, thanks for letting me know my place in your perfect wedding." "Don't be dramatic," Mom said. "This is Emma's special day. You shouldn't make it about you." "She's the one who made it about me," I pointed out. "Or rather, about how I look." "It's not just about looks," Emma protested weakly. "The bridesmaids all know each other. They're a cohesive group." "A cohesive group of size 2 Instagram models," I said. "See, this attitude is exactly why I was worried about telling you," Emma said, her voice rising slightly. "You always get so defensive." "Defensive? You just told me I'm not pretty enough to stand next to you at your wedding. How should I react?" Tiffany, Emma's maid of honor, chose that moment to stop by our table. She placed a perfectly manicured hand on Emma's shoulder and smiled at everyone, her gaze cooling noticeably when it landed on me. "Sorry to interrupt," she said. "Emma, the event planner, is here. She wants to talk to you about the table settings." "I'll be right there," Emma said, clearly relieved by the interruption. As Tiffany walked away, she glanced back at me. "Nice hoodie, Mackenzie. Is that the new spring collection?" Her laugh tinkled like breaking glass. I stood up, grabbing my bag. "I need to go." "Mackenzie, don't leave like this," Mom pleaded. "We're having family dinner." "I've lost my appetite," I said. "Congratulations on your wedding, Emma. I'm sure it will be very aesthetic." I walked out of the restaurant with as much dignity as I could muster, made it to my car, and broke down sobbing against the steering wheel. The rejection wasn't just about a wedding role. It was the culmination of a lifetime of being told I wasn't quite good enough, not quite pretty enough, not quite worthy of the spotlight. And this time, it had come from the two people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. I called Haley the moment I got home, still hiccuping through tears as I kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto my couch. "They did what?" Her outrage came through the phone like a blast of fresh air. "Your own sister? And your mom went along with it? That's beyond messed up, Mackenzie." "She said I don't fit the aesthetic," I explained, the words still burning in my throat. Like I'm some ugly piece of furniture that clashes with her color scheme. "You should tell them both to go to hell," Haley said fiercely. "Skip the whole wedding. Let them have their perfect aesthetic without you." "I've considered it," I admitted. "But that feels like letting them win somehow." After talking with Haley for nearly an hour, I hung up and found myself doing what any rejected woman does in the digital age. I went into a social media spiral. I pulled up Emma's Instagram and began scrolling through her perfect life. There they were, the aesthetic bridesmaids. Tiffany, Sophia, Madison, Layla, and Ashley. All with identical blonde highlights, identical slim figures, identical fashion-forward outfits. All frequently featured on Emma's feed in carefully posed group photos with captions like "Brunch with my besties", #squad goals, and "Weekend vibes with my favorite people", #blessed. I kept scrolling, going back months, then years. The further back I went, the fewer appearances I made. It was as if I had been gradually erased from my sister's public life as her following grew. The last photo of us together was from Christmas 2 years ago, and even then I was at the edge of the frame, partially cut off. I switched to looking at family albums next, the physical ones stored in boxes under my bed. In these older photos, before Instagram filters and professional lighting, I could see the pattern had started early. Emma front and center. Me to the side or in the back. Emma in vibrant colors. Me in darker, less noticeable clothes. The visual evidence of our family dynamic was stark when viewed chronologically. As the night wore on, deeper wounds began surfacing in my memory. I remembered my high school prom, when I'd saved up for my after-school job to buy a dress I thought was beautiful. Emma, a sophomore to my senior, had asked me not to join the pre-prom photos at our house because my dress didn't match the vibe of her friend group who were also taking pictures there. Mom had sided with Emma, suggesting I take my photos at my date's house instead. I remembered countless shopping trips where Mom would buy Emma designer clothes while I got the basics from department stores. "Emma needs to look nice for her social media," Mom would explain. "It's part of her brand." The unspoken message. My appearance wasn't important enough to invest in. There was the family vacation where Emma and Mom spent hours taking photos on the beach at sunset, directing Dad on the perfect angles, while I read a book under an umbrella. When I asked to join a photo, Mom had said, "Maybe tomorrow when your sunburn fades," though my skin wasn't burned at all. Each memory compounded the pain of tonight's rejection. This wasn't a one-time event. It was the culmination of a lifetime of being told, in ways both subtle and overt, that I wasn't worthy of being seen. That my value to my family diminished in proportion to how much I failed to meet their beauty standards. Around midnight, exhausted from crying but unable to sleep, I found myself standing in front of my bathroom mirror, scrutinizing every aspect of my appearance under the harsh fluorescent light. The soft roundness of my face. The unremarkable brown hair. The body that had never known serious discipline or deprivation. The complete lack of style or fashion sense in my rumpled pajamas. For the first time, I saw myself through my family's eyes, and I hated what I saw. Not because there was anything inherently wrong with my appearance, but because I had allowed their standards to become the measure of my worth. I pulled out my phone, my finger hovering over Emma's contact information. Part of me wanted to call her and unleash years of hurt and resentment, to tell her exactly what I thought of her shallow values and conditional love. Instead, I set the phone down and looked back at my reflection. A different question was forming in my mind. What if this rejection wasn't the end of something, but the beginning? What if, instead of accepting their judgment of me, I showed them exactly what they were missing? The thought came with a rush of energy that cut through my exhaustion. I wasn't going to cry myself to sleep tonight. I was going to make a plan. The initial thought came from a place of pure vengeance. I would transform myself so dramatically that Emma would regret her decision. I would become so aesthetic that her precious wedding photos would feel incomplete without me. I would make her eat her words along with her wedding cake. But as I sat down with a notebook the next morning, coffee in hand and emotions slightly more under control, I realized something important. If I did this solely for revenge, I would be validating the very values that had hurt me. I would be admitting that appearance was indeed the measure of worth that my family believed it to be. No, this transformation needed to be for me. Not to fit into Emma's wedding photos, but to break out of the box I'd allowed myself to be placed in. Not to win my family's approval, but to stop seeking it altogether. I made my first call to Morgan Williams, a personal stylist whose card I'd kept after a corporate event where she'd spoken about professional image. I'd been impressed by her emphasis on authentic personal style rather than blindly following trends. I need a complete transformation, I told her when we met at her studio the following day. But I don't want to become someone else. I just want to be a better version of me. Morgan took her time assessing me, having me walk around the room, looking at me from different angles. Unlike my family's evaluating gazes, hers was professional and kind. "You have amazing bone structure," she said finally. "Those cheekbones are actually enviable. And your eyes, that deep amber color is stunning. We just need to frame them properly." "I do." I touched my face in surprise. No one had ever commented positively on my features before. "Absolutely. And your body type is very proportional. You're carrying some extra weight, yes, but your waist is well defined, and you have great legs. Your current clothes are hiding all your assets." For the next 2 hours, Morgan explained the colors that would complement my skin tone, warm autumn shades rather than the cool pastels my sister favored, the clothing cuts that would flatter my figure, and the small details that could elevate my overall appearance. "This isn't about becoming a different person," she emphasized. "It's about learning the visual language that helps the world see the real you." With Morgan's guidance, I developed a comprehensive transformation plan. This wouldn't be a quick makeover. It would be a 5-month journey leading up to Emma's wedding. My plan included working with personal trainer Jesse Ramirez 3 times a week to build strength and endurance. Not to become skinny, but to feel powerful in my body. Consulting with nutritionist Diana Chen to develop a sustainable eating plan focused on energy and health rather than rapid weight loss. Visiting dermatologist Dr. Amanda Patel to address the skincare issues I'd always ignored. The occasional adult acne, the uneven skin tone, the neglected sun protection. Scheduling a hair transformation with stylist Marcus Jones, known for creating looks that suited both a person's features and their lifestyle. Setting aside a realistic budget for a new wardrobe, with Morgan's help to ensure every purchase was intentional and versatile. But I knew that physical changes alone wouldn't heal the deeper wounds. So I also made an appointment with Dr. Samantha Torres, a therapist specializing in family dynamics and self-esteem issues. "What you're describing is a lifetime of comparative neglect," Dr. Torres said during our first session. "Your appearance became the scapegoat, but the real issue is the conditional love you've received from your mother and sister." "I've never thought of it that way," I admitted. "I just assumed I wasn't trying hard enough to look good." "That's exactly what they wanted you to think," she replied gently. "It was easier to make you the problem than to examine their own shallow values." With Dr. Torres's guidance, I began journaling my progress and feelings throughout the transformation process. I also made the decision to set clear boundaries with my family during this time. I texted Emma, I need some space to process everything. I'll be taking a step back from wedding planning for a while. Her response was typically self-centered. Please don't be difficult about this, Mac. I need everyone on board for this to work. I didn't reply. For once, I wasn't going to reassure her that her feelings mattered more than mine. The final element of my plan was perhaps the most important. I decided to keep my transformation completely secret from my family until the wedding day. No progress photos, no hints about my changing appearance, no advance warning of any kind. Emma had wanted me invisible until it suited her. I would give her exactly what she wanted, right until the moment I didn't. My first session with personal trainer Jessie nearly broke me. Years of prioritizing mental work over physical activity had left me embarrassingly out of shape. 10 minutes into our warm-up, I was gasping for breath, face flushed, questioning all my life choices. This was a mistake. I panted, doubled over with my hands on my knees. That's what all my clients say during their first session, Jessie said calmly. By session 10, they're telling me to increase the weights. He was right. The human body's capacity for adaptation is remarkable when given consistent stimulus. By the end of the first month, I was completing full hour-long sessions without feeling like death was imminent. By month 2, I was actually looking forward to our training days. Jessie focused on compound movements that worked multiple muscle groups simultaneously: squats, deadlifts, rows, and presses. Gradually, my body began to change. Not dramatically, not rapidly, but steadily. My posture improved first, shoulders pulling back instead of slumping forward. Then came functional strength, climbing stairs without getting winded, carrying groceries without strain. The physical changes were subtle, at first. Slightly more definition in my arms. A bit more shape to my legs. A small reduction in the softness around my middle. Nothing that would draw immediate attention, but changes I could feel in how my clothes fit, in how I moved through the world. Parallel to the fitness journey was my nutrition overhaul with Diana. She didn't put me on a restrictive diet or count my calories. Instead, she taught me about nutrient density, protein requirements, and the importance of adequate hydration. Small, sustainable changes add up. Diana reminded me when I got impatient with the pace. This isn't about looking different for one day. It's about living differently forever. I learned to cook new recipes that were both satisfying and nourishing. I discovered that I actually enjoyed foods I'd previously avoided: avocados, sweet potatoes, various leafy greens. I found that adequate protein kept me fuller longer, and that most of my previous sugar cravings had been masking simple dehydration. My skin transformation began with Dr. Patel's surprisingly simple recommendations: consistent cleansing, appropriate moisturizing, and religious sun protection. She prescribed a topical treatment for the occasional breakouts I experienced and recommended professional facials once a month to deep clean and exfoliate. Skin is your body's largest organ, she explained. It reflects your overall health, sleep quality, stress levels, and hydration status. As those improve, so will your skin. She was right. By month 3, people at work were commenting on my glow. My complexion had evened out, the persistent redness around my nose had faded, and the dark circles under my eyes had lightened considerably. The hair transformation with Marcus was perhaps the most immediately noticeable change. After examining my hair texture and face shape, he recommended a collarbone-length cut with layers to add volume and movement, and subtle highlights to add dimension to my natural brown. Your current hairstyle is telling the world you don't have time to care, Marcus said bluntly. Let's create something that says you care, but you're also busy being awesome. The cut took nearly 2 inches off my length, but somehow made my hair look fuller and healthier. The highlights brought warmth to my face that I hadn't known was missing. Marcus also spent time teaching me simple styling techniques that I could realistically maintain on my own. Beauty should serve you, not the other way around, he said. If a style takes more time than you're willing to give it daily, it's not the right style for your life. Morgan's guidance on wardrobe was similarly practical. We didn't rush out to buy everything at once. Instead, we identified key pieces that would form the foundation of my new style: well-fitting jeans that actually flattered my figure, tailored blazers that define my waist, blouses in colors that brought out the warmth in my skin and eyes. Fast fashion is designed to make you feel constantly inadequate, Morgan explained as we sorted through options. We're investing in fewer, better pieces that will last and that truly serve you. Shopping with intention rather than emotion was a revelation. Each piece I purchased had to earn its place in my wardrobe by meeting specific criteria. It had to fit perfectly or be worth tailoring, coordinate with multiple other items, suit my lifestyle, and make me feel confident when wearing it. By month 4, my closet contained fewer items than before, but everything I owned actually worked for me. Getting dressed each morning became a pleasure rather than a chore. The mental transformation happening alongside these physical changes was even more profound. Weekly sessions with Dr. Torres helped me identify and challenge the negative beliefs I'd internalized about my worth being tied to my appearance. Your mother and sister outsource their self-esteem to external validation, Dr. Torres observed. You've done the opposite. You've disconnected from your appearance entirely, as if not caring about it somehow makes you morally superior. Both extremes are problematic. True confidence comes from healthy integration of all aspects of yourself. This insight hit home. I had indeed worn my lack of interest in appearance as a badge of honor, as if caring about how I looked would somehow diminish my intellectual credibility. I was reacting against my family's values rather than developing my own. As my confidence grew, I found myself setting boundaries in other areas of my life. I spoke up more in team meetings at work, offering ideas I would have previously kept to myself. I declined social invitations that didn't genuinely interest me, rather than forcing myself to attend out of obligation. I asked for a performance review and used it to successfully negotiate a promotion I'd been quietly working toward for months. The first real test of my transformation came unexpectedly. While grabbing coffee at my favorite cafe, I ran into Dylan, a former colleague I hadn't seen in nearly a year. "Mackenzie," he said, doing a visible double-take. "Wow, I almost didn't recognize you. You look amazing." In the past, I would have deflected such a comment, uncomfortable with attention on my appearance. Instead, I smiled and said, "Thanks, Dylan. I feel amazing too. How have you been?" We ended up chatting for nearly an hour, with Dylan eventually asking if I'd like to get dinner sometime. I surprised myself by saying yes. The dinner was pleasant, though we didn't have enough in common to pursue anything further. Still, it was refreshing to be seen and appreciated as a whole person, both my mind and my appearance acknowledged as worthy of attention. More significant was the reaction when I finally posted a new photo on my own neglected Instagram account, just a simple picture of me enjoying a hike, taken by a friend. The post received triple the engagement of anything I'd shared before, including likes from several of Emma's friends who had never interacted with my content previously. As Emma's wedding approached, I maintained my commitment to keeping my transformation under wraps. I declined family dinners, citing work commitments. I avoided video calls, sticking to text messages. When the formal invitation arrived in the mail, I noted that I was still listed as guest book attendant rather than bridesmaid. I RSVP'd with a simple yes, attending, and nothing more. A week before the wedding, Emma called me directly, the first time we'd spoken voice-to-voice since the restaurant incident. "So," she said, an odd note in her voice, "I ran into Haley at the grocery store yesterday." "Oh." I kept my tone neutral. "She mentioned you look different these days." I could hear the curiosity burning in her voice, but I wasn't ready to give her the satisfaction. I suppose everyone changes over time," I replied vaguely. "Mac, if you're doing something drastic to try to prove a point about the wedding party." "Not everything is about your wedding, Emma," I interrupted calmly. "I've just been taking better care of myself lately. For me, not for anyone else." The silence on her end spoke volumes. She'd been expecting me to either deny any changes or admit I was trying to spite her. My calm indifference to her opinion clearly threw her off balance. "Well, good for you, I guess," she finally said. "Just remember the dress code is formal." The invitation specified floor-length gowns for female guests. "I'm aware of the dress code," I assured her. "See you at the wedding." 2 days before the wedding, fate threw me another test. While picking up a package at the boutique where I'd ordered my dress for the wedding, I literally bumped into Bradley, Emma's fiancé. The look of shock on his face was almost comical. He stared at me for a solid 5 seconds before recognition dawned. Mackenzie? Holy shit, you look incredible. Thanks, Bradley, I said, smoothing down the blouse I'd worn to work that day. How are the wedding preparations going? Intense, he admitted, running a hand through his hair. Emma's been stressing about every detail. Between us, I'll be glad when it's over, and we can just be married. We chatted awkwardly for a few minutes before Bradley suddenly blurted out, I want you to know I thought it was wrong. The bridesmaid thing. I told Emma she was making a mistake, but you know how she gets when she has a specific vision. His admission surprised me. Thank you for saying that. It means something to hear it. As we parted ways, I caught him glancing back at me, a look of genuine regret on his face. For the first time, I felt truly free of the need for my family's approval. I was walking into this wedding on my own terms, regardless of the role I'd been assigned. The morning of Emma's wedding dawned bright and clear, the perfect June day she had envisioned for her outdoor ceremony. I had booked appointments for professional hair and makeup, splurging on the same artists who frequently worked with local celebrities. Not Emma's artists, of course. I'd checked to make sure there would be no advance reveal. As the makeup artist worked, applying products with a skill I could never replicate myself, I watched my face transform in subtle but significant ways. She didn't mask my features or create a new face. She simply enhanced what was already there. The amber eyes I'd always thought unremarkable were suddenly striking. The cheekbones Morgan had praised were sculpted and defined. My lips looked fuller and more symmetric. My hair was styled in soft waves that framed my face perfectly, with small sections pulled back to showcase my now glowing complexion. The overall effect wasn't dramatic in the way Instagram filters are dramatic. It was simply me, but the best possible version. The dress I'd selected with Morgan's guidance was nothing like what I would have chosen 6 months earlier. Instead of the safe, forgettable black I'd worn to every formal event in my adult life, I'd selected a floor-length gown in a rich copper gold that complemented my highlighted hair and warmed my skin tone. The cut was elegant but modern, with a fitted bodice that showcased my now stronger shoulders and more defined waist, before flowing gracefully to the floor. It wasn't revealing or attention-seeking, just perfectly suited to my body and the formal occasion. When I was fully ready, I stood before the full-length mirror in my apartment and barely recognized myself. Not because I looked like a different person, but because for the first time, my outer appearance reflected the inner strength I'd been building. Haley arrived to drive us to the venue, stopping dead in her tracks when I opened the door. "Oh my God," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "Mackenzie, you're breathtaking." "Don't cry," I warned, fighting back my own emotion. "You'll ruin your makeup." "Forget my makeup," she said, pulling out her phone. "We need to document this moment. The look on your family's faces is going to be priceless." We arrived at the Westlake Hotel 45 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin. The venue was indeed stunning, with white roses and greenery adorning every surface, just as Emma had described. Guests were already gathering in the courtyard where the ceremony would take place. The first person to notice me was my cousin Rachel, who did such an obvious double take that she nearly spilled her pre-ceremony champagne. "Mackenzie," she exclaimed, loud enough to draw attention from those nearby. "Is that really you? You look incredible." As I moved through the gathering crowd, the reactions continued. Old family friends failed to recognize me until I spoke. Relatives who normally greeted me with polite disinterest now approached eagerly. Several of Emma's friends from her aesthetic social circle eyed me with a mixture of surprise and evaluation. "Did you lose weight?" asked an elderly aunt, reaching to touch my arm. "A little," I acknowledged. "But mostly I've been strength training." "Well, whatever you've been doing, you should keep it up," she declared. "You're absolutely glowing." I caught sight of Tiffany, Emma's maid of honor, emerging from the bridal suite to give instructions to the wedding planner. When she spotted me, she froze mid-sentence, her expression shifting from confusion to recognition to poorly concealed alarm. "Mackenzie," she said, approaching with a tight smile. "You look different." "Thank you, Tiffany," I replied pleasantly. "So nice to see you again." She glanced around nervously. "Emma's getting ready in the bridal suite. She's been asking if you've arrived yet." "I should go say hello then," I said, moving toward the door she'd just exited. "Wait," Tiffany said quickly. "Let me tell her you're here first." But it was too late. I'd already knocked on the door, and my mother's voice called, "Come in." I stepped into the elegant room where Emma sat in a plush robe while a stylist made final adjustments to her elaborately upswept hair. Mom stood nearby, already dressed in her mother-of-the-bride outfit, fussing with the veil laid out on a chaise lounge. For a moment, no one spoke. Mom saw me first, her mouth falling open in shock. Emma, seeing Mom's expression, turned toward the door and froze. "Mackenzie," Emma whispered, as if not quite believing her eyes. "Hi, Emma," I said calmly. "You look beautiful. The hair is perfect." Emma continued to stare, seemingly unable to process my transformation. Mom recovered first, rushing toward me with an expression of wonder and confusion. "Sweetheart, you look absolutely stunning. What have you done? You've lost so much weight. And your hair. And is that a designer dress? It must have cost a fortune." "I've been taking better care of myself," I said simply. "And yes, the dress is designer. I decided to invest in quality." Emma whispered something to the hairstylist, who nodded and quickly exited the room. Then Emma stood and approached me slowly, examining me from head to toe. "I can't believe it," she said finally. "You look like you stepped out of a magazine." I wasn't sure if her tone held admiration or dismay. Perhaps both. "Thank you," I replied. "I wanted to look appropriate for your special day." An awkward silence followed, broken by Tiffany slipping back into the room and immediately pulling Emma aside for a hushed conversation. I caught fragments. "Cannot believe," and "upstage," and "what now?" Mom seemed oblivious to the tension, still circling me with exclamations of approval. "You must tell me who did your makeup. And where did you find that dress? It's perfect with your coloring. I never realized you could look like this." "Morgan helped me find the dress," I said. "She's a personal stylist. I've been working with her for months." "Months," Mom repeated. "Why didn't you tell us?" "It was something I needed to do for myself," I explained. "Not for anyone else's approval." Emma and Tiffany concluded their whispered conference, and Emma approached me with a determined expression. "Mackenzie, can I talk to you privately for a minute?" she asked, gesturing to a small adjoining room. I followed her, curious about what she might say. Once the door closed behind us, Emma turned to me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "So," she began, "Brittany came down with food poisoning last night." "Brittany?" I repeated, confused. "One of my bridesmaids," Emma explained impatiently. "She's in the hospital on and 4. She obviously can't be in a wedding." Understanding dawned. "That's unfortunate. I hope she recovers quickly." "Yes, well, the thing is," Emma continued, not meeting my eyes, "we're now a bridesmaid short and all the photos will look unbalanced with only 4 girls instead of 5. I waited, letting her get to the point on her own. "The photographer says it will ruin the composition we planned," she added. "And we can't rearrange everything last minute." "That sounds stressful," I acknowledged neutrally. Emma finally looked directly at me. "The thing is, now that you look like this, I was thinking maybe you could step in. As a bridesmaid, I mean." I felt a strange calm settle over me. This exact moment, was what the old Mackenzie would have desperately wanted. Validation. Inclusion. Approval based on meeting the aesthetic standard. "We have the dress," Emma continued quickly. "It should fit you now. And the hair and makeup team can match what the other girls have. No one would know it wasn't planned all along." "No one except me," I said quietly. "And you."
"And Mom."
"And Tiffany." Emma had the grace to look slightly ashamed. "Look, I know how it seems. But it would really help me out. And we're sisters after all." "We're sisters," I agreed. "Which is why I should have been a bridesmaid from the beginning, regardless of how I looked." "That's not fair," Emma protested. The wedding has a specific aesthetic. You know how important that is for my brand. More important than our relationship. Don't be dramatic, Mackenzie. It's just photos. It was never just about photos, I said gently. It was about whether I was worthy of standing beside you on one of the most important days of your life. 6 months ago, you decided I wasn't. The only thing that's changed is my appearance, not my worth as your sister. Emma's expression hardened. So you're saying no? You're going to make this difficult to punish me? I'm not punishing you, I assured her. I'm honoring myself. I'd be happy to attend your wedding as a guest, as you originally planned. I'll clap and cry and dance and wish you every happiness. But I won't pretend that I suddenly became worthy of being a bridesmaid because I lost weight and bought better clothes. The door opened before Emma could respond, and Mom entered, looking concerned. Is everything okay? Emma, the coordinator, says we're on a tight schedule. Mackenzie is refusing to help with the bridesmaid situation, Emma said immediately, her voice tight with frustration. Mom turned to me, confusion evident.
What?
But you look perfect now. Why wouldn't you want to be in the wedding party? The casual cruelty of perfect now hung in the air between us. Because I'm not a backup plan, I said steadily. And because my worth as Emma's sister doesn't fluctuate with my dress size. This is ridiculous, Mom snapped. Emma needs you today. After everything we've done for you over the years, you can't do this one thing for your sister? What exactly have you done for me? I asked, genuine curiosity in my voice. When have either of you ever put my feelings above appearances? We are not having this conversation right now, Mom declared. Emma is the bride. Today is about making her happy. I agree, I said calmly, which is why I'll be a supportive, loving guest at her wedding, exactly as planned. Now, I should find my seat for the ceremony. I walked out of the bridal suite with my head held high, leaving Emma and Mom staring after me in disbelief. As I closed the door behind me, I heard Emma's frustrated cry. What are we supposed to do now? For the first time in my life, that wasn't my problem to solve. I took my place among the guests, finding the seat marked with my calligraphed name card in the 4th row, not family close, but not banished to the back either. Haley sat beside me, squeezing my hand in silent support. You okay? She whispered. Never better, I replied and meant it. The ceremony was as aesthetically perfect as Emma had planned. The 5 bridesmaids, apparently they'd pulled in a cousin of Bradley's as a last-minute replacement, looked identical in their blush pink slip dresses, with matching loose curls and neutral makeup. They were indeed a cohesive visual unit, looking more like props than individuals as they flanked Emma at the altar. I watched my sister make her vows with genuine happiness for her. Despite our differences, despite the hurt, I wanted her marriage to be successful and joyful. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, I clapped and cheered along with everyone else. At the reception, I mingled easily with guests, many of whom made a point to compliment my appearance. Unlike in the past, I accepted their kind words graciously rather than deflecting or minimizing them. I danced when invited, enjoyed the excellent food, and generally behaved like any other happy wedding guest. You look stunning, said Bradley's father when we were seated at the same table for dinner. I believe we met at LeBlanc a few months ago. I almost didn't recognize you. Thank you, Mr. Phillips, I said. Yes, we did meet there. Please call me Robert, he insisted. Bradley mentioned you work in software engineering. I'm on the board of a tech incubator that's always looking for talented people. We should talk sometime. This pattern repeated throughout the evening. People who had previously overlooked me now engaged me in genuine conversation, interested in more than just my transformed appearance. It was as if looking acceptable had opened a door that allowed people to finally see the person I'd always been. The moment I'd been dreading came during the photographer's family portrait session. I had assumed I would be excluded, but the coordinator specifically sought me out. We need you for the family photos, she said, checking something off on her clipboard. The bride specifically added you to the list this morning. I followed her to where my mother, Emma, Bradley, and his parents were already arranged in front of an elaborate floral backdrop. Emma's eyes met mine briefly as I approached, a complicated mix of emotions crossing her face. "Where should I stand?" I asked the photographer. "Between the bride and her mother, please," he directed, consulting his shot list. As I took my place beside Emma in her spectacular white gown, she whispered, "You do look beautiful, Mac." "I mean it." "So do you," I replied softly. "I'm happy for you, Em. Truly." The camera flashed, capturing a moment of genuine connection amid the complicated feelings. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was a beginning. 2 weeks after the wedding, as Emma and Bradley honeymooned in Bali, I received a text message from my sister. "Can we talk when I get back? I've been doing a lot of thinking." Over coffee the following week, Emma offered what might have been the first sincere apology of her adult life. "I was wrong," she said simply. "Not just about the bridesmaid thing, but about a lot of things. The wedding photos came back yesterday, and you know what? They're perfect. Not because everyone looks identical, but because the people I love were there." "That's a good realization to have," I said cautiously. "Bradley said something that really hit home," she continued. "He said he'd rather have authentic memories than perfect photos."
And he's right.
I've been so caught up in how things look that I forgot what actually matters. Our reconciliation wasn't immediate or simple. One coffee couldn't erase years of hurtful dynamics. But it was a start. My relationship with Mom evolved more slowly. Her initial reaction to my transformation had been telling: immediate approval once I met her aesthetic standards. It took several difficult conversations for her to begin recognizing her pattern of conditional acceptance. "I never meant to make you feel less than," she insisted during one particularly emotional lunch. "I just wanted the best for both my girls." The best for Emma was helping her shine, I pointed out. The best for me was apparently becoming invisible. She had no ready answer for that, which was progress in itself. The most meaningful changes, however, were in my own life. The physical transformation had been just the beginning. With my new confidence came new opportunities. I accepted Robert Phillips' invitation to interview at the tech incubator, securing a position that challenged me professionally while valuing my unique perspective. I began dating Julian, a graphic novelist I met at a coffee shop, who was attracted first to my confidence and second to my appearance. Our relationship developed slowly and authentically, built on mutual respect rather than superficial attraction. I maintained my fitness routine, not to maintain a certain size, but because I genuinely enjoyed how strong I felt. I continued working with Morgan occasionally, refining my personal style as my tastes and needs evolved. These things had become part of my self-care rather than tools for external validation. In therapy, Dr. Torres helped me navigate the complex process of forgiveness, not for my family's benefit, but for my own peace. I learned that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting or allowing the same patterns to continue. It meant releasing the anger that bound me to past hurts while maintaining healthy boundaries against future ones. 6 months after the wedding, Emma invited me to be featured on her Instagram account for a series about inspiring women. In the past, such recognition would have felt like the ultimate validation. Now, it was simply a nice gesture from a sister trying to do better. "What would you say was the biggest lesson from your transformation?" Emma asked during the casual interview she conducted for her followers. I considered the question carefully. "I think it's that transformation is most powerful when it comes from self-acceptance, not self-rejection. I didn't change because I hated who I was. I changed because I finally valued myself enough to invest in all aspects of who I am." "That's really beautiful," Emma said, and for once, her social media persona dropped away, revealing genuine admiration. My journey hadn't been about revenge or even validation in the end. It had been about breaking free from a narrative that had constrained me since childhood. About discovering that appearance could be an authentic expression of self-worth rather than its determinant. About finding the strength to define my own value in a world that constantly tried to define it for me. The irony wasn't lost on me that being excluded from my sister's wedding party had ultimately been the catalyst for the most meaningful growth of my adult life. Sometimes rejection is actually redirection to a path you never would have chosen on your own. I'm curious to hear from you all. Have you ever had an experience where rejection led to unexpected growth? Leave a comment below and share your story. And if you found something valuable in my journey, please like this video and subscribe to see more conversations about authentic transformation. Remember, true beauty isn't about fitting someone else's aesthetic. It's about becoming the fullest, most authentic version of yourself. Thank you for being part of my journey, and I wish you courage on yours.